Swing it. There we
Hey,
go.
what's up, dude?
Hey, what's going on?
Doing, man?
Good. Well,
Good. Look at your space, dude. That's awesome,
yeah. So you can definitely see I'm quite the nerd. So
dude. So am I. I love all that stuff. I mean, as you can see, I've got like all kinds of
Star Wars.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
BB-8.
yeah. The whole house is decorated, and just I get it. What's up, dude? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Actually, I got a chance to. I don't know if you remember me. I got to see you a couple of weeks ago in Connecticut.
Yes. Yeah, I was just about to say yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You look familiar, and now it's all registering. What's up, dude? Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Hey, I just want to say, first, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my
So,
pleasure.
welcome to Pop
Absolutely.
Culture with Pat. I know it's a pleasure to have you as here on as a guest. So I'm excited to get this started.
Yeah, pop culture with Pat. I'm all about it.
All right. So, first question I have for you, Chad, is
Yeah.
what was it that initially got you interested in acting?
Well, I'd always, growing up, I was always in front of the camera. I was always hauling around the big cameras back then. We had, the VHS recorder, but you had to put on your shoulder.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's how I would just always be in front of the camera, just doing. Do you cuss on this show, or are we clear to say anything here, Pat?
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
All right, cool. All right, just want to see what we're working with there, Pat. Pat with pop culture with Pat. There's a lot of P's in there. Anyway, so to get to your question, yeah, I started acting in high school, and I just knew that I was very good at that, and I was never into sports. Still am not into sports. I just always loved movies and TV and actors, and then when I was 17, I started looking in the classified ads in my own small town of Mount Vernon, where I grew up. And then there was an audition there was in the classified. It said actors looking for actors at an agency called Kid Biz in Seattle. And so I called them up. I went down and auditioned, and they took me right away. And then the next day they sent me out for an audition for a movie, for a film called Born to Be Wild, which was about an ape and a boy, and they were driving across country together, and got my first part. So it was my very first audition. I booked it, and then I moved to LA about a year when I was 19, and I've been here ever since. So it's kind of where I started, and then I did a lot of stuff in Seattle, and just kind of step by step, and then moved to LA and never looked back.
Okay. Well, tell me, what do you kind of look for in a role when you're handed a script, and how has that changed from when you started first in your career up until like now?
Well, I think you have to be excited about it. You have to get a feeling within yourself that rings true. And I always look for that. And then there's a lot of times too where you get surprised and I'll sort of turn away from it and be like, oh no, I can't do that. When actually, yeah, I could, and I end up getting it, surprising myself. And then a lot of it is we got to work, So I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of really cool things, a lot of cool projects. So yeah, I just kind of, you hope for that feeling. You want that sort of like that gut feeling.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll know right away, like when you get a script or a part, and for the audition, you'll know right away. Like Supernatural, I knew instantly before I even went in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, many people like myself, we know you as Jesse from the Fast and the Furious.
Sure.
Obviously, I got you to sign that poster. And how did you land the role as Jesse? And what was the process like preparing for that? Did you know as much about cars as you you portray in the film?
Not a bit, man. Actually, my dad grew up as a mechanic, and his dad was a mechanic, and then my dad became a police officer. But he's always known cars and how to work on them, and I just he never got the son. I was much more just not the hands-on mechanic kind of guy. I was more the creative, type. So it was always funny growing up because I just never knew how to work on cars, and I ended up booking this movie where I play a mechanic. Um, it was funny, when the audition came through for the Fast and the Furious. It was actually called Red Line back in the day before it became the Fast and the Furious, and I was sent the audition. And I remember at the time I was like 23, I want to say, and I had been in LA for like 4 years, and I was kind of in this place where I thought I wanted to be a serious actor, and I wanted to do art movies, and I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, I got the audition, and I actually turned it down, and my agent ended up hanging up on me on the phone because she was so mad at me for not going in, and I was just such a turd. And always very appreciative of what I had, though. Don't get me wrong. I just was just young. And then she called me again and said, "You should go in on this." And I said, "No." And then she hung up. She hung up on me again. And then another agent called me from the agency. He was like, "Look, just go in." So I did, very thankfully. And I met Rob, the director, and they auditioned me. No, I met casting. They auditioned me, and then I got called back to go meet with Rob Cohen and to read with, I believe it was Johnny Strong and it was Matt Schultz, and they had us read together. And then I'm like, oh, this could be something. And then I ended up booking this movie, and we got to go run around in these cool outfits with cool cars, and it was awesome. And then just before the movie came out, my mom asked me if I wanted to have a premiere in my small town, and I said, "Mom, no one's ever going to see this film." And look, and the day it came out, it literally changed my life forever. I started getting bombarded in malls and restaurants, and it was a instantaneous sort of change, and that was, and I learned a great deal that you just never know. You know what I mean? You just never know, and we have to treat it that way. So it was a huge lesson for me, and thankfully, it still came my way, even though I was being a little bit of a turd at the time and not seeing clearly. But it's still to this day so incredibly relevant. I mean, it's crazy. They keep making these movies and people love them, so it's awesome.
Yeah, talk about something that was meant to be, where you were denying it a couple times, and
exactly
look what it ended up turning out to be. So, could
yeah.
you talk a little about what it was like to be just on the set, and do you have like a favorite scene that was from the film?
Being on that set, it was, again, it was before it was actually the Fast and the Furious. It was just a bunch of really no-name actors, and everybody was. It was just one of the more sort of like pure times, I think. Before fame really creeps in, before all these things sort of creep in, it was kind of like the most purest form, I think. And it was fun. We had a lot of fun, and favorite memories. I think one of my favorite ones was Race Wars. Is being out there that day. It was hot. It was cool. Everybody was in a good mood. It was just neat, and then working with Paul that day. When I came out of the camper, we're walking to the cars, and I just remember saying to him, "Yeah, I like working with you, dude. You're pretty awesome." He's like, "I like working with you too, man." And that's the kind of guy he was, man. He was just the coolest, most down to earth human being, and still continued to be throughout his life. So yeah, man.
Okay, I actually have kind of a fan question, and they wanted to know from Cameron. And he was wondering if you regret racing the S2000.
Every day, man. Every day, especially after they keep making 8, 9, 10 movies. You're like, oh man, why'd they have to kill Jesse? But that was Jesse was the heart of the movie, and I think he was the most real thing, and I think he was the character that people could relate to the most.
I agree.
So yeah, he kind of had to die so that we all felt bad, and it drives the story forward.
Exactly.
And then you're like, yeah, go get him.
And actually, another fan question that this is from Justin Mulholland. He was wondering if Jesse didn't die in the first film, what would he be driving today? And do you think he would have stuck with German cars?
Good question, man. You know, good question. I don't know what he'd be driving today. I never, believe it or not, I've never gotten that question before. So thanks, Justin, for that. I don't know. Maybe the jet has been blown up, so he's gotta switch it up, right? Man, I don't know. I just don't know. There's so many beautiful cars, and again, a lot of people think I know a lot about cars, and I don't. It's so funny. I do appreciate them, of course, a lot more. But it's funny. A lot of people come up to me over the years, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I got a 5X79," and they'll go off and spill these lengthy car, and I'm like, that's great. I don't know what you're talking about, but it's great.
I can imagine you get that a lot.
I don't know. I something cool, but not too flashy. I think Jesse was just kind of like real.
Yeah.
So we'll stick with something sort of real. What would you see him in? But it's hard to imagine him without the Jetta. The Jetta's.
Yeah, that's iconic. I mean, that's what you think of with Jesse. Right. So maybe another Jetta. Maybe more,
yeah. I like that.
An updated
just keep
Jetta.
It in family.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then, if there was one character in your career that best represents Chad Lindberg, who would that be and why?
Good questions. Great questions today. Well, look, in every character I do, I think in a lot of actors, we pick certain things in there that we can relate to these characters, and you have to find the most human aspects, even when you're playing someone really bad and nasty. You have to go in there and find the human connection. Man, so there's a little me in everything, Oh, man, good question. Man, I'm trying to go back. Maybe. I mean, I'm not as computer savvy as I come across in all my movies. Because even I would say maybe Ash, but without all the technical jargon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty out there. You know what I mean? So it's always hard for me to kind of rein it in. Because I'm a weirdo. I'm a weirdo. So it's hard for me to. I don't know that there's one character that I'm like, oh, that's definitely closest to me. But, I would say, the heart of Jesse, I would say is pretty close to mine. It is close to mine. And then sort of the flair of Dr. Badass, I would say maybe those two combined, you'd find me somewhere in the middle.
Okay. That's interesting. Now, you've done a number of different, numerous roles for both television and film. Do you prefer one over the other? I know, obviously, in television, sometimes, you have arcs with, a character, so you get a little bit more time to kind of spend with them.
Yeah.
So do you prefer one over the other, or do they just have both equally different parts you enjoy?
Yeah, I love them both differently, and I've been really fortunate to be able to work in them both. And I, when I started, it was that there was a time where it was like you either did TV or film, and it was just kind of starting to cross over, and then it just became this thing where TV is so good. I mean, look at all the things you had, Stranger Things. I mean, come on, that's a fantastic show.
Yep, I agree.
So now it's cool that there's no rules, and back then there was. But I've been really fortunate enough to work in both TV and movies. The processes are different. TV is much more quicker, and you gotta kind of have to. And film is a much more of a drawn out process, which I enjoy. I enjoy going on location for a month, getting to know the actors, getting away from LA a little bit, and then just doing something crazy.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And as far as, speaking of television, you got to play Ash on Supernatural, as you kind of talked about already, who was a fan favorite. What was your experience like on there, and do you have any stories that come to mind while working on the set of Supernatural?
Supernatural. Again, one of those roles that I knew pretty instantaneously that I was going to get. Um, uh, the mullet really does just kind of speak for itself. So whenever the mullet went on, which was about an hour and a half process
Oh wow.
to do, yeah, they would have to pin it, and they had buttons attached to it, and they'd have to like button it in the back of my head, and then lots of hairspray, and you had the business up front, and then just going on set, people didn't see me; they just saw Ash, which was just fun. But it also was before it became this thing, and now it's like a worldwide phenomenon. It's crazy, we never saw that coming. So they killed us, unfortunately, and then it became. It's the story of my life, man. I tell you, they kill me, and then it becomes a phenomenon. So, and then everybody on that set, super cool. Jared and Jensen, two of the nicest guys in the world, and it spreads from there. Yeah, it's just a nice, loose set, and sometimes that's hard to come by, in this industry. So it's a special one, and especially we've gotten to travel the world because of this show,
Yep.
And meet fans all over the world. It's cool. I mean, I've literally traveled the world because of Supernatural. So it's just awesome.
Yeah.
What can you say?
I was gonna say that's where like I mentioned a little while ago that's where I first met you back in 2008 in Chicago. Was that thing for Supernatural? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's pretty cool. No, speaking on that, you've gotten a chance to play two characters that have developed huge fan bases over the years. Can you describe what it's like to be part of something like that, not only once in your career, but twice, where some, actors or actresses don't get a role like that their whole career?
Yeah, man. And thank you for that. I love your questions today, dude.
Thank you.
I look back now and I'm like, man, I'm really grateful. And I've always been grateful, but I'm really like, holy shit, it actually happened. You know what I mean? Because it's such a hard industry and it's so difficult. Even now, it's still difficult. You know what I mean? And so I know there's a lot of actors out there who would love that. And I feel very blessed to have done a lot of very cool projects over the years, and then to have, a couple different iconic characters in these ridiculously huge franchise or TV, fandom. It's awesome. I never saw that coming, and I'm really grateful for it. And you feel it when you go out. When I go out into public, people freak out over Jesse. Still to this day, every day, no matter where I go. Probably even more so now than ever, because now it's a iconic. People know it. Like,
Yep.
It's hard to find someone who's not seen the original Fast and the Furious unless you're 5. But they still, parents are still playing that for their kids, because they're always going to go back to number 1, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But of course, going to these Supernatural conventions, which I've done, you can feel the love just penetrate, for the Supernatural. It's quite something, and it's cool to have those special characters out there that people respond to, and it does something to them as well, and they give that back to me. You know what I mean? It goes like this all the time, which is it's a beautiful thing.
Would you ever given the chance just because of Supernatural, where no one ever really dies on that show? Would given the chance, would you go back on there?
Oh, of course, without a doubt, man. I would happily take that phone call any day.
All right. Actually, the next thing I wanted to get into, we've covered television, movies. You're also a paranormal investigator, which is something I actually didn't know for a while. So that that's pretty cool. How did you get into that field, and what has been your favorite investigation so far?
How did I get into the field? I started. I've always had experiences my whole life and just been really fascinated with life and death and all of the weird shit in between. And I always loved all the ghost shows, but when Ghost Adventures came along,
Yep.
I really responded to it. And I remember watching every episode. And eventually I contacted the guys, and they very graciously had me on their show. And kind of that night when they had me on their show back in 2011, I want to say, maybe, it completely changed my life. I got scratched that night. It was just a turning point. And from there, I started getting invited to all these cool places to investigate. I was just gung-ho about it. I wanted to learn everything. I went out with anybody I could. I learned from some of the best in the business of paranormal. And then eventually, Nick Groff produced a show called Ghost Talkers, where they put me and John Tenney, who's been doing it for like 30 years. He's been an investigator for 30 years. And they put us in these really haunted locations together overnight. One guy goes in one night alone, and then the other guy would go in the other night alone. And that was a thrilling, terrifying time in my life. And they would, they would put me out there by myself. The crew would go home at the end of the night, and I'd have to go into these really insanely huge haunted places by myself with 2 cameras and a flashlight, and terrified. And then from there, I travel all around giving, touring people in haunted locations and facilitating conversations between living and the dead. So that's kind of the short answer to a very long sort of. And then you add, what's my favorite place? Or what was the second part?
Oh, just like your favorite or maybe a couple favorite investigations, up to this point.
Man, there's been a lot of interesting places. For me, the biggest teachers are the scariest places where I get my ass handed to me. and I've got my ass handed to me a few times. And it's very real though too, when you get out there and you do it, the whole romanticism of ghost hunting and how amazing it would be and cool sort of like takes a toll, and you're like, oh man, this gets real. So there's a very real aspect to it that people don't really see on the television, that you are and sort of soaking in these weird, fucked up things. At least that's how it happens to me. And man, there's been a lot of cool places that I've gone to, prisons, insane asylums. You name it, man. Haunted houses. The list goes on. Yeah, I know there's tons, but yeah. So now, on top of acting, I also do paranormal work professionally.
As far as we're talking about it a little bit earlier as well. What could you tell me what your top 5 favorite movies are?
Yeah, E.T., Shawshank Redemption, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Point Break. I need one more. I feel like Star Wars is up there, you know what I mean? But like the whole everything about Star Wars.
I was gonna say, which one?
Yeah, probably Return of the Jedi for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say Return of the Jedi.
So that's a pretty solid list.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, this is kind of a dream scenario. If you were given the chance to play, a character or a role in just one movie or show that you haven't yet, what would that be?
I think right now, Stranger Things would be a fun one. Okay. You can't really go wrong there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Dr. Badass on a future season of Stranger Things.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'd like to see the 80s version of me. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen, I've been through a lot of different characters, but I'd like to see an 80s version of whatever. I don't know. I love the whole 80s comeback right now. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, Duffer Brothers, let's make this happen. Let's get Chad on Stranger Things. Now, just taking a look at your career, so far you've done so many television roles, movies. What is some advice that this Chad would give you first starting out in the business?
Oh, wow. I'd be like, are you sure? Are you sure? Oh man, unfortunately, I feel like there's not much you can say to young actors because they're gonna be like, yeah, whatever. That's not gonna happen to me. And those are a lot of things that I said.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna go through that. And it did. You can't avoid it. But I would say be patient. It's going to be a really long haul. Um,
That makes sense.
and there's going to be great highs and there's going to be extreme lows, so be patient, save money, and enjoy it, enjoy it. It's okay to enjoy the good things that are given to you because sometimes we can self-sabotage, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
so I would say do that and start working on loving yourself and harnessing that because the town will sort of chip away at that over time. And then you get to develop a thick skin here because, actors are told, we're told everything that's not right about us. It's a lot of no's. It's mostly no's, but that's entertainment industry. You know what I mean? It's a million no's to one yes, and then when that yes happens, it's like
You're all set.
you're all set, and you hope that it becomes something, and you never know. And like we were talking about earlier, I've been very fortunate to have worked in some really amazing films and TV, and have characters that most people know. You're like, oh yeah,
Yep.
that guy.
It's that guy.
Yeah.
Well, what are you currently working on right now, and where can fans find more information about Chad Lindberg?
Yeah, man. I just was brought back to NCIS, which
Okay.
is very cool. Joey Peanuts is one of my favorite TV guest stars. I was on the show back in 2011, I believe. So they brought me back 7 years later. That's been cool. What else is coming up, man? I do again. I have a lot of conventions coming up and ghost hunts, and that's how you and I have now, connected again. And Pat from Pop Culture with Pat, and yeah, man. Sky's the limit right now. I feel there's a lot of good things happening, and I'm very open to work, and I really want to and hopefully come across another character that it's one of those characters, you know what I mean? And especially in my adult life, I think those characters came when I was pretty young in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I was young, so I would love something to come in now that's I'm in my 40s now. I've been doing this a long time, so I'd like something more adult to come my way. And people can find me all over social media. Chad Lindberg, Twitter, Chad Lindberg, Instagram, Chad Lindberg. Gosh, there's so much social media apps and all these.
Just everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, but this is how we, it's changed the game as far as like how we promote and how we.
Everyone's so connected.
Yeah, exactly, and it makes this easier. And
Yep.
and so. And do you have all that stuff? The social media? Okay, good.
Yep.
I gotta follow you now on Twitter. Do you have an Instagram as well?
I do.
All right.
Yep.
All
Yeah, I
right,
can
cool.
send that your way as well.
We're now going to be officially, in fact, while I have you on your show here, Pop Culture with Pat, I'm going to follow you. Let's see here. Pop Culture with Pat. I know you tweeted me this morning, didn't you?
Yep. Yeah, I should be on there. Pat Ellingson, I believe, actually.
Let's see. Yes. Ah, there it is. Pat Ellingson. Boom. We are officially Twitter friends, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I just want to thank you again. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on to my show, my channel. That really means a lot. So just thank you, Chad. And
Oh,
I
dude,
hope we
my
can
pleasure.
work on some stuff in the future as well.
Yeah, man. No, I please send me the link to when you post this, and I'll
Yep.
help you get it out there. And keep doing your thing. I loved all your questions today, and I loved your vibe, and I love your set, and just I'm excited to watch your show just go like this. All right. So
Thank you.
anytime, have me back, my friend. I will always be your guest.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day,
All
Chad.
right. Best of luck, man. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. I'll see you soon, Pat. Cheers.
See ya.
See ya.